Man, it really feels like Jonathan Majors is winning all across Hollywood, and I'm here for it. Let's go. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my devotion movie review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. So guys, we have Devotion, a film that I was really looking forward to with your boy Jonathan Majors. One reason why is it is action, it is drama, it is war. And I really do like my action, I like my drama, and I like my war films as well. They're all very educational. Even though they are destructive and painful, you can still take a lot from a war movie, and so I always appreciate when we get those. Now, this is being directed by Mr. J.D. Dillard, and as you can see, this is what the gentleman looks like, a brother, and I did not know that until the credits hit, and I was looking up information in preparation for this review. But if we scroll down just a little bit and look at his filmography, we will see that he did Slight that came out in 2016. I did enjoy that film, and I always do a horrible job at the pronunciation. But he also did Sweetheart, two-sentence horror stories, The Outsider, The Twilight Zone, and Utopia, which I have not seen. But if you have seen this man's previous work, please let me know what you thought down below. But like I said, now he is directing Devotion. And when it comes to the title of this film, or the definition of devotion, love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause, his courage and devotion to duty never wavered. And I just have to say, guys, I love the title for this film. I think it fits perfect. Now, as far as my expectations are concerned going into this film, they wasn't super high going through the roof, but I was expecting a good picture because we do have Mr. Jonathan Majors at the lead. And I am a big fan of his, and I reside in Dallas, Texas, and that is where this man is from as well. I have loved everything that he's done in the past, starting with Lovecraft Country that came out a number of years ago, and I did cover that on my channel. Can we please get a season 2? Please, HBO, what are you doing? What are you doing? But he was also in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I haven't seen that yet. It is on the list, but I remember my dad and everybody else telling me how great of a film that was. But he was also in The Harder They Fall. He was in Loki, The Five Bloods, and I cannot wait to see him more in Loki, and also Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Kang Gang, and Creed 3, all dropping next year. It is about to go down, if it hasn't already, with this young man, Mr. Majors. But with him at the lead of this film, I wasn't expecting anything less than greatness, and we're going to talk about if we did get that or not. So before I get into all the nitty-gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film, Devotion, is all about. A pair of U.S. Navy fighter pilots risked their lives during the Korean War and become some of the Navy's most celebrated wingmen. So the first thing that I do want to talk about is this movie is based on a true story. I really do recommend you see the film, and if you haven't seen it already and plan to, please go in blind besides watching any trailers, and then if you want to do your research after you view it, feel free. In my opinion, and I'm not saying I'm right, I just think with this story, it'll benefit you more not knowing that much about what happens to the real life performers in this, or the real life people in this movie. I just think it'll be a better experience for you, but of course, you can do whatever you want. But not wasting any of your time, guys, I will just go ahead and say this right now. This movie is exceptional. It is excellent. It's possibly one of the best movies that I've seen this year. Now, I will say take that with a grain of salt, because I will admit there are a lot of movies that I did miss this year. I'll be getting a lot of for your consideration movies in the mail and digital links, Devotion being one of them that I do want to check out. But I will just say this is still one of the better films that I've seen this year, and I think you will agree with me. One being, Jonathan Majors is amazing. Now, I don't want to go as far as saying that this man deserves an Oscar or a nomination because I've missed so much, but he did do a great job. Now, transitioning over to another film, Till, with Danielle Deadwyler. Off the top, I was saying, okay, this sister deserves an Oscar, a nomination. She dang well should win this thing. I'm not saying that Major's performance was as good as hers, but it still does deserve some recognition. and it'll be a bit disappointing for me if it does not get any. So I am really, really rooting for this man. But he did a great job, especially trying to navigate as the first Black American pilot aviator in the U.S. Navy. That can be a very daunting task physically and mentally, and I love the way that this film addressed it. It also reminded me of a film that came out, I think in the 90s or the early 2000s. I can't remember. I guess I can look it up right now, called Medal of Honor with Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr. But shout out to Cuba. In that film, he had to deal with racism as well. I can't remember exactly what branch of the government it was, and may have been the Navy as well, but you remember when he was trying to test out, they were horrible. Racism, white supremacy everywhere. When he's trying to dive at the bottom of the pool or the body of water, they're cutting open his bag and he has to assemble the parts all underwater, and that's completely unfair. We also get a taste of that in this movie Devotion, and it just kind of shows how difficult it was for people that look like me, as they're just trying to get the same love, respect, and protection as everybody else. And it is moving and teaches me some lessons in this film that I'll talk about later on in this review as well. I mean, there was one scene where he was looking, and slight spoiler right here, but this man will write down in a notebook every hateful, racist thing that somebody said to him his whole life, and he will look in the mirror and repeat that. And that was the way he would cope with all those stresses. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, all Black people are victims of racism, white supremacy, and everybody has a way of dealing with it. And this was just the way that made him comfortable. It was somewhat of a painful scene to watch because I felt sorry for him. I wanted to jump into the screen and give him a hug and be like, brother, I got you. I got you. And this, man, it just also shows like you need a comrade. You need a friend. You need somebody that you can vent to, therapist, or whatever, because like this, the mental illness that can come up just from dealing with all this crap, like it's ridiculous, and nobody should have to go through that. And I like the performance that Jonathan Majors was able to deliver, because that was a powerful scene. And another thing is, this film does not have that much action in it. Maybe only 2 scenes, and that may be a turnoff if you're wanting like a full-fledged war movie. But no, it is to his benefit. This movie focuses more on Jonathan Majors and what's important to him, what he's fighting for, the relationship that he has with this plane, and the relationship that he has with this fellow wingman. And all of that was just outstanding. Now, one of the things that he was fighting for in this movie was his family, specifically his wife by the name of Daisy Brown, played by Miss Christina Jackson. I don't think I've ever heard of her before, but I love the screen time that this film gave her. And I'm quite interested in seeing, I mean, she looks familiar. Actress, producer, and stunts. And when I'm looking at this picture right here, it says her background in the Comic-Con, and I'm just like, what is this? I don't think I've ever seen this one before, but if we scroll down just a little bit, Swagger, The Good Fight, The Night House, Outsiders, I have not seen any of these. And again, guys, if you have, please let me know what you think down below. But as far as stunts is concerned, yeah, in Unfinished Life, I'm not familiar with all of her previous work, but I will say this right now. She is on my radar. She did such a great job. When I was watching this movie, I was looking at her performance and I was saying to myself, this is exactly what I want for a wife. Somebody, of course, that's beautiful and that I'm attracted to, but somebody that is sweet, that is caring, that is nurturing, that is a good mother, that has a great level of class and just your ride or die. There was one scene in this movie that she sat in her husband's lap, Jesse Jonathan Majors, and the way that Jonathan looked at her, the way that Jesse looked at her, all men know exactly what I'm talking about, but it was that look like, damn girl, you really are the one. You really are down for me. And it's like, you would think that because it's his wife, but it was just a nice gesture, friendly reminder that she was able to give him of saying, baby, everything is going to be okay. I got you. That is the peace of mind that a black man or any man needs from his spouse, from his partner. And I loved it, especially with it being black love. That was all over this movie. Like, this is a war movie, but they spent so much time on the family and that dynamic and their relationship. And I loved it. It was very beautiful, the way they were dancing at home with the music in the background, with the little daughter looking on to their parents, seeing how they love each other. I love that. And off the top of my head, I cannot think how many times, how often I see that in movies and television. Not saying that it does not exist. There's a lot of movies and TV shows out there, but I haven't seen it all, but it did stand out in this movie and I loved it. Another thing that I loved about this movie is we get a ton of war movies where there's aerial battles, dog fights, etc. But this movie Devotion really did focus on the mechanics of the plane and the relationship between the pilot and the plane and their vehicle and all the difficulties that lie within. You really do have to get to know your plane. Of course, you're gonna die. It is a symbiotic relationship or you better build one. So I just have a newfound respect for pilots after watching this movie with all the details that they have to go through to get the job done. Now, a supporting role is played by Mr. Glenn Powell, and he was also in Top Gun Maverick that came out earlier this year. He is the wingman. He is the ally of Jesse Brown, Instinct Jesse Brown. And I will say, Mr. Glenn Powell, you did a great job. You are on my radar. Oh, you're kind of young too. You was born in 88. Okay, I didn't know that. You just kind of seem older. But anyway, he did a great job. He was in also Top Gun Maverick, like I just said. And also, where is it at? Hidden Figures that came out in 2016, a number of years ago. I honestly don't remember him in Hidden Figures. I've only seen that movie like twice, and I own it downstairs on Blu-ray. I'm gonna have to check it out again. But I definitely do remember him in Top Gun Maverick. He did a great job in Top Gun Maverick. He also did a great job in this film as well. And on top of me loving this movie because of Jonathan Majors and them showcasing what he was fighting for. And I really do enjoy the amount of screen time it showed the relationship between Glenn Powell and Jonathan Majors' characters. That was a main point in this movie, and I liked it. And the dialogue that we got from both of them of explaining their different experiences was a highlight of the movie. Like Glenn Powell's character, Tom Hutner, he is an ally. I can safely say that to a degree, and of course I'll talk about that a little bit later in an important part of this review, so make sure you stick for that. Put a pin in it because we're gonna take it out and address it. But I will say that he is an ally from the way I looked at this film and his character. And what I liked about his character is he listened. He was trying to do his best. Of course, he wasn't a racist white supremacist, but he was trying to do his best. And sometimes things can slip between the cracks and you make a mistake, and he realized that, and he was trying to make up for it. And I do appreciate that. But again, the dialogue between them two, especially just during one scene, and they're talking about their experiences, you know, because I don't want to spoil it, but I want to talk about it so bad. But his character, Tom, was kind of by the books. And Jesse, Jonathan Majors' character, was kind of like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but it's different for you and me. I cannot necessarily navigate the same way as you because it'll get my head chopped off. And I just like the fact that he listened. He wasn't trying to overtalk him or just say, hey, I see it this way, you're wrong. No, he respected Jesse and his lifestyle and his opinion and his body of work and all of that. And that's just something that, at least I can say for myself, it's just not too common in society. And so that was just a standout as well. I love that. And I spoke earlier about Jesse Brown was the first aviator, first pilot in the U.S. Navy. And this, the pride that the other black men had seeing this was very, very lovely. It reminded me of a behind the scenes take on Captain America Civil War, where Chadwick Boseman first put on the Black Panther costume. If you saw that clip, that featurette, they talked about how all of the other black people in the crew stopped what they was doing just to see Chadwick Boseman pop on the scene in that full Black Panther garb and how important that was to them. I mean, it's still important to me. I kind of want to go watch that scene or interview again, that featurette, after I'm done with this video. And I love that. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But there were sprinkles of that in this movie as well. And it made me smile ear to ear. And I think it will make you do the same. And again, there is not even that much action in this movie. There's only like 2 scenes. And I really didn't even care to see any. At least an hour into this movie, I was saying to myself, okay, we're not going to get any action. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm loving the relationship that the characters are having amongst themselves, the relationship that Jonathan's character Jesse is having with his wife, in the relationship with the plane and how it works. So when we get this action, it's a bonus. And it's really sad to where we do lose characters in this movie because you do care about them. And then the action at the end, it was fantastic. And one reason it was so good is the director, J.D. Dillard, did hire the same person from Top Gun Maverick that choreographed all those scenes. And I want to make sure I give him credit because his name is Kevin LaRusso. And so shout out to you. And so when you're seeing this movie and you're like, man, these are good aerial battles. I mean, if you like Top Gun Maverick that came out this year, you will like this as well. Now, the visuals are not as good because they use IMAX cameras or some IMAX filter or something like that. There's no IMAX shots in this movie, but the aerial battles are really, really dope, especially when that score comes in. And I didn't even look it up, so shame on me. So let me do that right now because I just want everybody to get their flowers because this was another highlight of the movie for me, especially at the end with all of this scoring and music and bass. Yes, and music is by Sharronda Dancy. I've never heard of you before, but good job. You did a great job, Sharronda. Oh, yes, oh yes, that's why it was so good, because it was a sister, you know what I'm saying? But man, towards the end of this movie, when it was an aerial battle scene and our heroes, wingmen, have to come save the day, the way they infused the music, the score with the explosions was badass. And shout out to, again, Kevin LaRusso as he choreographed the scene, showing the pilots break throughout the clouds one by one, and then the music turning on, and then dun 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 dun, boom, boom, explosion, dun dun dun, boom. It was dope as hell. And I was like, yeah. I grabbed my remote and I turned that thing up. Sorry for all my neighbors at home, but I had that bass going, and all the men like, yeah, we got a Negro pilot. Let's fight. And they're like, ah, charging, trying to shoot at the enemy. I was in that thing, man. I was loving it, you know, and I'm kind of petty sometimes, and there was some pettiness in here as well because everybody wasn't a fan of Jesse. Of course, you know, he has some racists in his crew as well, and the fact that we got to see this black man save these racists, which is like, you know, he kind of like tipped his head like, yeah, bitch, you know, like I was like, yes, that's what you get. So, but no, in all seriousness, it was a dope ass scene, and I really did enjoy it. But one of the things that I do want to talk about that's very important, and this is not necessarily a criticism, it's just an observation. And I love the title of this movie called Devotion, but if they wanted to come up with a second title, they can possibly call it like White Allies. And the reason why I say that is when it comes to Mr. Glenn Powell right here. Now, I am not out here saying, I am not a black man that's out here saying that all white people are evil, all white people are racist, white supremacists, or anything like that. No, that's stupid, that's ignorant. I know that there are good white people out there. However, I am at the point right now in my life to where if you are a white person out there and you consider yourself an ally, you are not a racist white supremacist, you are a good person, you have to prove that to me on an individual basis. What I mean by that is, say for instance, I have a best friend that I've been knowing all my life that's black, and they have known the white person all their life, but I don't know that white person. They can come to me and be like, hey, Brandon, this white person right here, that good, you know what I'm saying? They're not evil, they're not racist, they're not a white supremacist. This is a good person right here. I'm not gonna believe my friend, even with them being black, and even with me knowing them all my life. I just can't trust it because of the system we live in. I can't talk about everything right now in this video, it'll be too long. You just have to prove it to me on an individual basis. But I like the way this film proved it to some degree to Jesse's character, and there's a lot of lessons that you can take away from this, that you can learn. And I don't want this part to be too long, but look, if you're watching this video, and I'm talking about like white allies and how to navigate the space, you know, because if you suspect somebody to be your friend and ally and they turn up not to be, you know, it can really break your heart. We all have jobs, we all have responsibilities. And, you know, when I talk about my responsibilities, I'm talking about bills. You know, we got to pay the rent, we got to pay the mortgage, water, food, electricity, all of that. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. You have to have a budget, and you have to be a responsible person to, you know, adhere to that budget. But I want people, or I kind of think about white allies as walking down the street and seeing a $20 bill or seeing cash. Now, most people, when they walk down the street if they see some cash on the ground, they're going to pick it up and put it in their pocket. There's nothing wrong with that unless you see somebody drop it. But if there's no way to identify, you're going to look to your left, you're going to look to your right, and you don't see nobody, you're going to pick it up and put it in your pocket. And you can use that money. However, if you do pick that money up off the ground, that's not something that you will rely on to take care of your responsibilities, to take care of your bills. It's extra. Okay, you're not going to turn it down. And we're also considering that the money on the ground, on the sidewalk, is not contaminated or has anthrax on it or COVID or, so I can't say that word, or something like that. You take it as extra. And that's kind of how I look at white allies. I am not going to depend on them to take care of my responsibilities, to take care of my bills. But hey, if I see some extra money on the ground and, I can use it, I can pick it up, then yeah, I can do that. And that is the way I looked at Glenn Powell's character in this movie as a white ally. And, I just think that we should move that way in general in real life. Is we don't depend on them, but at the same time, we're not just going to turn it down. If they consider themselves an ally and they want to help out, hey, cool, we can do that, help out. But, we can't depend on them. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's not too long-winded. And you're probably saying to yourself, okay, Brandon, what the hell are you talking about? But I'll probably think about that as I'm editing this, going back and, looking at what I'm saying. But I hope that makes sense if it doesn't just completely disregard it. And I just had to talk about that. It's just very important to me because I was talking to some people that are very close to me a number of weeks ago, and they're black, but unfortunately they're not conscious, and they still rely on white people to come save us. I'm just like, why do you still think this way? Like, come on, like, no, they can help out, but they shouldn't lead us. And it was just very, very disappointing. And so I just say all that to say, this movie is great, it's exceptional, it's excellent, but at the same time, it can be very dangerous if people or black people interpret it the wrong way, as if like, oh, all white people love us and, they're my friend. And if I rub shoulders with a white person, then, hey, everything will be okay. No, do what you got to do. Treat them as the $20 on the sidewalk as extra. You don't depend on that, but you can use it. I hope that makes sense. So that is going to conclude the things that I did like about this movie. Now let me transition to some things that I really didn't care for. And to be honest, there's absolutely nothing on that list. There's not one thing that I can say about this movie that I did not like, that rubbed me the wrong way, or anything like that. Again, this movie was exceptional. But yes, I will go ahead and give my rating for this at the very end. But for now, guys, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, helping me reach my next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. If you do subscribe to my channel, what will you get? You will get movie reviews, spoiler reviews, series reviews, a weekly movie news roundup show. Of course, we're going to be talking about this. If you're watching this today, December 4th on Sunday, come through 6:30 p.m. CST. I do this every Sunday. I have a movie news roundup show to where I compile all of the movie news that happened the prior week and talk about it on a panel, on a talk show type vibe. And that's a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about Namor Tanahuerta, who may not get a solo Namor film, a Bruce Lee biopic. Marvel is launching the Oscar campaign for Miss Angela Bassett for Queen Ramonda and Wakanda Forever. And also, I'm going to be talking about Will Smith's upcoming film, Emancipation, and all of the supposed drama surrounding that. You also get on my film trailer reactions. I've dropped a lot of those. And of course, you can check out my Black Panther Wakanda Forever coverage right here. A long playlist, recast T'Challa, Welcome to Chippendales, out of theater reactions, and some interviews as well. But guys, again, or not again, if I had to rate Devotion out of a 1 out of 10, I would give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, a 9.5 out of 10. You're probably saying to yourself, Brandon, well, if you have no complaints from the whole movie, why are you not giving it a perfect 10 out of 10? For me to give a movie a perfect 10 out of 10, not only does it have to be good with no complaints at all, it also has to completely blow me away. Only movies that have done that this year were Top Gun Maverick and Till. It's still a 9.5. That's great. Please go see the film, subscribe, and come back and let me know in the comment section what you thought. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, And that's just my opinion. Peace.